This is a song by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Gai Gura Madhusware. Gai Gura Madhusware. Gai Gura Madhusware. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Grihe Tako, Vane Tako, Sarahari Bole Tako, Grihe Tako, Vane Tako, Sada Hari Bole Dako, Suke Duke, Bulo Nako, Vadane Hari Nam Kurore, Suke Duke, Bulo Nako, Vadane Hari Nam Kurore. Maya Jale Barahoye Achomiche Kajaloye Maya Jale Barahoye Achomiche Kajaloye Ekono Chetana Piye Radha Madhava Nam Bolore Ekono Chitene Piye Radha Madhava Nam Bolore Jivana Huilo Shesha Nabijile Rishikesha Jivana Huilo Shesha Nabijile Rishikesha Baka Tivinod Paradesha Ekbar Nama Rase Matore Baka Tivinod Paradesha Ekbar Nam Rase Matore Gai Gora Madhusware Gai Gora Madhusware Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: Lord Gauranga sings in a very sweet voice. Madhusware, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Number 2. Somebody like to sing or recite?
Can I do, Prabhuji?
Of course.
Whether you are a householder or a sannyasi, constantly chant Hari Hari. Do not forget this chanting, whether you are in a happy condition or a distressful one. Just fill your lips with the Hari Nama.
Jai. Number 3.
I can read, Prabhu. You are bound up in the network of Maya and are forced to toil fruitlessly. Now you have obtained a full consciousness in the human form of life. So chant the name of Radha Madhav.
Number 4.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Your life may end at any moment, and you have not served the Lord of the senses, Rishikesh. Take this advice of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Just once relish the nectar of the holy name. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Jam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Ashota Tarashishi Mad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Ashota Tarashishi Mad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Maharaj Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Skoho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Grantaraj Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande. Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Putale Srimate Bhakti Tirtha Swamini Tinamani Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Ashratatmane Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Itinamane. Nam Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Putale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Rama Rama
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Rama.
Hare Krishna devotees, we're going to continue our study of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. We are on text 76 of chapter 8 of the Madhya Lila, and this chapter is the discussions between Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Rai. All right, let's pick up. Nrsimha Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
प्रभु कहे एहो उत्तम आगे कहो आर राय कहे बात्सल्य प्रेम सर्वसाध्य सार.
Translation. The Lord said, "This statement is very good, but please proceed further." Purport. Ramananda Roy then replied, "Loving service to the Lord in a parental relationship is the highest perfectional stage. Purport. The stage of loving service to the Lord in parental affection is an advanced stage of love in fraternity. In the fraternal relationship, there is a sense of equality. But when that sense of equality is advanced in affection, one attains the platform of parental love. In this connection, the following verse is cited from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.8.46, wherein Maharaj Parikshit voices his appreciation of Nanda Maharaj's and Mother Yashoda's intense love for Krishna. So we'll read the next couple of verses and then we'll talk a little bit about this Vatsalya Ras. Let's do that, and we'll read the next couple of verses go along the same theme. Text 77.
Nando kim kakrodo brahman Shreya ebham mahodayam Yashoda bha mahabhaga Papau yashayah stanam hari.
So this word here, Yashoda va mahabhaga, is very important because he's going to be asking how fortunate, mahabhaga, very fortunate, most fortunate is Mother Yashoda. Ramananda Roy continued, O Brahmana, what pious activities did Nanda Maharaj perform by which he received the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, as his son? And what pious activities did Mother Yashoda perform that made the Absolute Personality of Godhead, Krishna, call her mother and suck her breasts? Text 78.
Nemam vidancho na bhavo Nasir api anga samsraya Prasadam levire gopi Yatta prapa bhumuktidat.
The favor Mother Yashoda obtained from Sri Krishna, the bestower of liberation, was never obtained even by Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva, nor even the goddess of fortune, who always remains on the chest of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Purport. This is a statement from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.9.20. Krishna agreed to be bound by his mother Yashoda after she had given up trying to bind Krishna with ropes. This is another appreciation made by Shukadev Goswami in his narration of the pastimes of Krishna before Maharaj Parikshit. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So I wanted to speak a little bit about this Vatsalya Ras, referring to the verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 8th chapter, and here 9th chapter, that Srila Prabhupada is referring to, and which are also quoted here by Srila Ramananda Roy. Ramananda Roy has the difficult task of satisfying the inquiries of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya, asking him, what is the highest goal of life? Of course, the answer could be given in so many different ways. So Ramananda Roy has chosen, he chose a path to talk about, perfecting one's duty in terms of vana and ashram. And of course, if you've been following along, you know that Lord Chaitanya then said, yes, good, but I want to know something a little bit more directly spiritual, connected directly with Krishna, not necessarily connected so much with the material world. Of course, performing one's duties according to Varna and Ashram are recommended throughout the Vedas. But to be able to transcend that and achieve spiritual perfection is certainly higher. So Ramananda Roy went on the path then of describing the different types of associates of Lord Sri Krishna that are engaged in undeviated, unmotivated, unending devotional service. Pure bhakti. Servants in dasyaras. Fraternal relationships in sakyaras. And each time he spoke about it, Lord Chaitanya said, but can you go a little bit further, a little bit deeper? So now we're hearing about, he's describing the glories of Mother Yashoda and Shukadev Goswami. So let's go back to the 8th canto of the 10th canto, 8th chapter. And Krishna, he's playing with his friends one day, and then they lodge a complaint to Mother Yashoda, Krishna's mother, that Krishna has been eating dirt. So Mother Yashoda becomes very upset with Krishna. Every day I cook for you so nice food. Why are you putting such filthy things in your mouth? Do I not provide you with enough sandesh and rasgullas? Our house is filled with wonderful sweets, and I've made them for your pleasure. But yet you sit here and, on the ground and put the dirt in your mouth. What kind of behavior is this, Krishna? So Krishna says, Mother, they're liars. I don't know why they're saying these things about me. But you can see for yourself. Open my mouth and you'll see, not a trace of dirt. So Mother Yashoda, following Krishna, because sometimes people can be a little bit tricky. See for yourself, and then they say, okay. Well, he wouldn't say see for yourself if he was innocent, so therefore they may think, okay, they may not look, just they'll take my word for it. So she inspects, opens Krishna's mouth, and sees within his mouth the entire universal creation. It was quite fascinating the way it was explained. She even saw within her mouth, herself looking within her mouth, looking within his mouth. And right away, she could see all this and realize that this was no ordinary child. This was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And immediately she started to change her approach and service based on the knowledge that she had, to all in reverence, service, servitude. But then to break that, Lord Krishna invoked his Yoga Maya, his potency that will create an illusion in order to enhance deeper and loving pastimes with his devotees. And then she forgot what she had just seen, and she cuddled Lord Krishna and took him home. And but that experience was relayed from Shukadev Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit. So Maharaj Parikshit was wondering, and asked the question. He says, I'll read it here. This is text number 46. Having heard the great fortune of Mother Yashoda, Parikshit Maharaj inquired from Shukadev Goswami, O learned Brahmana, Mother Yashoda's breast milk was sucked by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What past auspicious activities did she and Nanda Maharaj perform to achieve such perfection in ecstatic love? Although Krishna was so pleased with Vasudeva and Devaki that he descended as their son, they could not enjoy Krishna's magnanimous childhood pastimes, which are so great, and simply chanting about them vanquishes the contamination of the material world. Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, however, enjoyed these pastimes fully, and therefore their position is always better than Vasudeva and Devaki. Shukadeva Goswami then said, to follow the order of Brahma, Drona, the best of the Vasus, along with his wife Dara, spoke to Lord Brahma in this way. So let me just catch up here, or say a few words here. Shukadeva Goswami, or Maharaj Parikshit was asking, essentially, what type of sadhana did Yashoda, Mai, and Nanda Maharaj perform in order to achieve this great perfection in life, to have Krishna born as their son? And this is a very natural question, that because we tend to see things in terms of, in this world, of what we have earned. You know, we've performed great austerities and achieved some great success. So a person wants to know, how hard have they worked? What did they do? You know, how long did they have to fast? You know, how long did they have to perform a certain type of service in order to get rewarded this way? So in response, Shukadeva Goswami explains that actually in their previous life, Yashoda Mai and Nanda Maharaj were the great devotees Drona, not to be confused with Drona Acharya, and his wife Dara. They spoke to Lord Brahma. Please permit us to be born on the planet Earth, so that after our appearance, the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, the supreme controller and master of all planets, will appear and spread devotional service, the ultimate goal of life, so that those born in the material world may very easily be delivered from the miserable conditions of materialistic life by accepting this devotional service. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, before Krishna's appearance, Drona and Dara appeared in order to become Krishna's father and mother. It is they who appear as Nanda Maharaj and his wife Yashoda. In other words, it is not possible for a sadhana siddha living being to become the father and mother of Krishna, for Krishna's father and mother are already designated. But following the principles exhibited by Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda and their associates in the inhabitants of Vrindavan, ordinary living beings may attain to such perfection as exhibited by Nanda Maharaj. In the purport, and the purports around here, Srila Prabhupada explains that actually Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, they are part of Krishna's Ladini Shakti. They actually come from the body of Lord Krishna. They are not ordinary jivas. And therefore he's saying here that, this position cannot actually be achieved by anybody. It's eternally existing. So, in answer to the original question, what type of pious activities did they perform? They didn't perform any pious activities. When Krishna was coming to this earth, he arranged for his associates to come along with him to bless this earth with his glorious pastimes that were taking place in Goloka Vrindavan. So along with that, his mother and father, Yashoda and Nanda, also came. And this is the process in which they came. They appeared. It's not that so much that it's described that they expanded themselves. So they still remained in Goloka Vrindavan. We should be clear on that. It's not that they left that Goloka Vrindavan. They were still in Goloka Vrindavan. But they expanded themselves into Drona and Dara, and approaching Lord Brahma, they, said, we would like to take birth on earth. Lord Krishna is coming, because the demigods, they went and they prayed. So Lord Brahma said, yes, let it be so. The most fortunate Drona, who is equal to Bhagavan, appeared in Vrajbhumi, Vrindavan, as the most famous Nanda Maharaj and his wife Dara appeared as Mother Yashoda. Now, we should understand that this is somewhat of a pretext. It's not as if Yashoda and Nanda needed the blessings of Lord Brahma. And the reason given here is that what was achieved by Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj is being explained that not even Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva or even the goddess of fortune could obtain. So how is it that Lord Brahma is granting the benediction and blessing to achieve something that he himself has no ability to do? Does that make sense? So we should not think that it was by Lord Brahma that Lord Brahma gave him this opportunity. Yes, in the context of how the pastime unfolds, but it's not that they weren't eternal associates in the spiritual world as Krishna's mother and father. And it wasn't through the process of sadhana that they became Krishna's mother and father. They didn't perfect their sadhana, and this was their reward. So, in answer to the question of what was their austerities, the answer to such is that they didn't perform such austerities. So this verse 10:9, which is spoken here, says, neither Brahma nor Lord Shiva nor even the goddess of fortune, who is always the better half of the Supreme Lord, could obtain from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the deliverer from this material world, such mercy as received by Mother Yashoda. And then text 21 says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the son of Mother Yashoda, is accessible to devotees engaged in spontaneous loving service, but he is not easily accessible to mental speculators, to those striving for self-realization by severe austerities and penances, or those who consider the body to be the same self. We'll talk about this in a little bit. But I wanted to read here something. I'll save this for later. I'm sorry. There's another purport later, which is quite long, which we'll spend some time on as well, that talks about there are residents in Vrindavan, in Goloka Vrindavan, who are always existing, and we can perfect our lives by following in their footsteps. And Srila Prabhupada writes in this purport as well to explain how to do that. Okay, let's continue. Is it anybody have any questions or comments on what I just said? Any clarifications needed? We're all good? Okay. Text number 79.
प्रभु कहे एहो उत्तम आगे कहो आर राय कहे कांता प्रेम सर्वसत्व सार.
The Lord said, "Your statements are certainly getting better and better, one after the other. But surpassing all of them is another transcendental mellow, and you can speak of that most sublime." So does anybody have an idea of what mellow he's referring to?
Conjugal love.
Conjugal love, Madhurya Rasa. Purport. Ramananda Roy then replied, "Conjugal attachment for Krishna is the topmost position in love of Godhead." Purport. In general, love of Godhead is devoid of intimacy of ownership. In the case of love and servitude, there is a want of confidence. There is a want of increased affection in the fraternal relationship. And even when this affection increases in the parental relationship, there is nonetheless the want of complete freedom. However, when one becomes a conjugal lover of Krishna, everything lacking in the other relationship is completely manifest. Love of Godhead lacks nothing in conjugal love. The summary of this verse is that the parental love of Godhead is certainly higher than fraternal love, and that conjugal love is higher yet. It was when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested Ramananda Roy to go further that he came to the point of the conjugal relationship, which is the highest perfectional stage of transcendental love. So just to make sure all this made sense, Srila Prabhupada is explaining why conjugal love, Madhurya Rasa, is considered to be the highest manifestation of love of Godhead. It's because the qualities of the relationship are complete and not lacking anything. And he starts off by saying, if one is in the mood of servitorship, there is still the desire. There's the desire to want confidence, or to have something a little bit more intimacy. But the relationship of servitorship prevents that. It's not that one can't be perfectly situated in servitorship, and we'll see this in the next coming verses. However, there's an element that is missing, that is there in other relationships, such as sakyaras, fraternal relationship, friendship. So in fraternal relationship, that desire to have some type of intimacy, let your guard down, be a friend, speak your mind, be open and free, is there. However, there's only a level of affection that can be reached, and then it becomes limited, or there's another stage in which affection can grow to. But as a friend, there's a limit to that. So it can be more deeply experienced at the paternal level, because at the fraternal level, there's equality. At the paternal level, there's no equality. Now, it's a different type of non-equality as the servitude relationship, dasya. In dasya, you're at a position which is serving Krishna, so you're beneath Krishna. However, at the paternal level, you're an actual. There's no equality because the parent is always in charge, and they're at a higher level than Krishna. So Krishna allows this to take place by his yoga maya potency. There's Srila Prabhupada, he writes in one of these purports to the 10th canto, he says, "The only supreme master is Krishna, and all others are his servants. Krishna has the transcendental quality of Bhritya Vasyata, becoming subordinate to his Bhritya, or servant. Now, although everyone is Bhritya, and although Krishna has the quality of becoming a subordinate to his Bhritya, the position of Mother Yashoda is the greatest." So Krishna has the quality of reversing this mood of servitorship, and to the point where he becomes the servant of his devotee. And this is experienced in the parental ras, known as Vatsalya ras. But even in parental ras, there's still more intimacy that can be experienced that cannot be fully experienced in the relationship as a parent. And that's being explained as being a conjugal lover in relationship with Krishna. So, and Srila Prabhupada is explaining here that there's everything that's lacking or is limited in those other relationships is completely available and manifested in the Madhurya Ras. Love of Godhead lacks nothing in the conjugal love stage. So that's the reasoning behind why we give these different levels of relationship. Now let's continue on. Does anybody have any questions before we move on? Or would like to say anything? If any of this doesn't make sense, please feel free to chime in and we can elaborate more. Text number 80.
Nayam Sriyango Nitanto Rate Prasada Swar Yoshitam Nalina Gandho Rucham Kuto Vanne Ratsotsave Asha Puja Dando Grihita Kanta Labda Sisham Ya Udgata Braja Sundarinam.
When Lord Sri Krishna was dancing with the gopis in the Rasa Leela, the gopis were embraced around the neck by the Lord's arms. This transcendental favor was never bestowed upon the goddess of fortune or other consorts in the spiritual world, nor was such a thing ever imagined by the most beautiful girls in the heavenly planets, girls whose bodily luster and aroma resemble the beauty and fragrance of lotus flowers. And what to speak of worldly women, who may be very, very beautiful according to material estimation. Purport. This verse, Bhagavatam 10:47-60, was spoken by Uddhava when he visited Sri Vrindavan to deliver a message from Krishna to the gopis. Uddhava remained in Vrindavan to observe the activities of the gopis there. When he saw the ecstatic love for Krishna in separation manifested by the gopis, he appreciated their supreme love and therefore expressed his feelings in this verse. He admitted that the fortune of the gopis could not be compared even to the fortune of the goddess of fortune, to say nothing for the beautiful girls in the heavenly planets. Text 81.
Tasam avirbuch chauriha smayamana mukhambuja pitambara dhara sragvi sakam manmatha.
We go back and forth between Bengali and Sanskrit because there's a lot of quoting here of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is in Sanskrit in a different meter. Suddenly, due to their feelings of separation, Lord Krishna appeared among the gopis, dressed in yellow garments and wearing a flower garland. His lotus face was smiling, and he was directly attracting the mind of Cupid. Purport. This verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:32-2. When the rasa dance was going on, Krishna suddenly disappeared, and the gopis became so overwhelmed, due to his separation and their intense love for him, that Krishna was obliged to appear again. This, of course, is just a small glimpse into the pastimes of the Rasa Leela, where the gopis came to see Krishna, foregoing any consideration of social boundaries, obligations. Hearing Krishna's flute, they rushed out of their homes to come see Krishna. They saw Krishna who was there on the banks of the Yamuna, and they performed their rasa dance, where Krishna expanded himself to be with each and every one of the gopis, and each gopi felt that Krishna was with them alone. And it is explained that within the time, little elements of pride would touch their heart. Krishna is with me, I must be so special. And then, poof, Krishna disappears. And then the gopis, in complete and utter sadness of where did Krishna go? Is Krishna okay? What did I do to deserve this? We have to find Krishna. So many things of emotions were racing through their minds that they went and searched throughout the forest in the middle of the night, which can be very dangerous. They were just overwhelmed by loving rapture of Krishna, and they needed to find Krishna. And one time, in looking for Krishna, Krishna was actually hiding, and he hid in the form of Vishnu. And so he had 4 arms, and he appeared as the description of Lord Narayan. And as the gopis walked by, they saw Lord Narayan, and they asked, "Have you seen Lord Krishna?" And with his arms he would point in a certain direction, directing them to continue to look. But when one particular gopi, Srimati Radharani, walked by Lord Narayan, feeling her heart pounding so intensely for her beloved Lord Krishna, this Narayan could no longer hold his transformative form and actually converted back into Shyamasundar. That is the power of Radharani's love for Lord Krishna. Even if Krishna wanted to withhold himself due to her intensity, she had forced him to reveal himself to her. So this is the level of love that is being spoken about. by Srila Ramananda Roy to Lord Chaitanya. Text 82.
কৃষ্ণ প্রাপ্তির উপায় বহুবিধ হয়, কৃষ্ণ প্রাপ্তি তারতম্য বহুত আছয়।
There are various means and processes by which one may attain the favor of Lord Krishna. All those transcendental processes will be studied from the viewpoint of comparative importance. Text 83.
কিন্তু যার যেই রস সেই সর্বোত্তম, ততস্থ হয়া বিচরিলে আছে তার তাম।
Is it true that whatever relationship a particular devotee has with the Lord is the best for him? Still, when we study the different methods from a neutral position, we can understand that there are higher and lower degrees of love. Purport. This is a long purport, but this is a very important purport, and will hopefully shed caution as we begin to study if our different have various attractions to particular relationships and still have material attachments. In this regard, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that this verse does not advocate the whimsical invention of some methods of love of Godhead. Such inventions cannot be accepted as topmost. Indeed, such concoctions are not recommended in these verses. Srila Rupa Goswami has said in the Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu 2.10.101, Shruti Shmiti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidim Vina Ekantiki Harir Bhaktir Upatayaiva Kalpate. He clearly mentions in this verse that one must refer to the Vedic literatures and other supplementary literatures and follow the conclusion of the Vedas. An invented devotional attitude simply creates disturbances in the transcendental realm. If a person overly addicted to family life takes to Srimad Bhagavatam or Krishna consciousness to earn a livelihood, his activity is certainly offensive. One should not become a caste guru and sell mantras for the benefit of mundane customers, nor should one make disciples for a livelihood. All these activities are offensive. One should not make a livelihood by performing a professional band to carry out congregational chanting, nor should one perform devotional service when one is attached to mundane society, friendship, and love. Nor should one be dependent on so-called social etiquette. All of this is mental speculation. None of these things can be compared to unalloyed devotional service. No one can compare unalloyed devotional service, Krishna consciousness, to mundane activities. There are many unauthorized parties pretending to belong to the Sri Chaitanya cult, and some are known as Ayula, Baula, Kartabaj, Neda, Dharavesha, Sani, Sahadya, Saki Beki, Smarta, Jatagoshani, Ativadi, Kudadari, and Gauranga Nagari. It's kind of a long purport, but please stay with us here. It's very important what Srila Prabhupada is explaining. Moreover, there are those who take the caste Goswami's opinion of such parties as bona fide, comparing these opinions to those of the 6 Goswamis headed by Sri Rup and Sri Sanatana. This is simply another cheating process. There are also non-devotees who composed unauthorized songs, who established different temples for money, who worship the deity as priest for salaries, who accept caste Brahmanism as all in all, and who do not know the value of pure Vaishnava. Actually, the caste Brahmanas and the Smarta community are opposed to the principles of Sattvata Pancharatra. Furthermore, there are the Mayavadis, who are overly addicted to material sense enjoyment. None of these can be compared to a person who is purely engaged in preaching Krishna consciousness. Every Krishna conscious person is constantly endeavoring to utilize different transcendental devices in service of the Lord. Such a devotee renounces all material enjoyment and completely dedicates himself to the service of the spiritual master and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He may be a perfect celibate, a restrained householder, and a regulated vanaprastha, or a Tridandi sannyasi in the renounced order. It doesn't matter. The pseudo-transcendentalist and the pure devotees cannot be compared, nor can one argue that a person can invent his own way of worship. The purport in presenting this verse necessitates explaining the comparative positions of the transcendental mellows as Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. All these rasas, or mellows, are situated on the transcendental platform. Pure devotees take shelter of one of them and thus progress in spiritual life. Actually, one can take shelter of such spiritual mellows only when one is completely uncontaminated by material attachment. It's an important line. Actually, one can take shelter of such spiritual mellows only when one is completely uncontaminated by material attachment. When one is completely free from material attachment, the feelings of the transcendental mellows are awakened in the heart of the devotee. That is Swarupa Siddhi, the perfection of one's eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord. Swarupa Siddhi, the eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord, may be situated in any one of the transcendental mellows. Each and every one of them is as perfect as the other. But by comparative study, an unbiased person can realize that the mellow of servitorship is better than that of the mellow of neutrality, and the mellow of fraternity is better than the mellow of servitorship, and the parental mellow is better than that of fraternity, and that above all other mellows is the mellow of conjugal love. So we explained that in the previous couple verses of why conjugal love is the highest. However, these are all spiritually situated on the same platform because these relationships of perfection and love are based on a central point, Krishna. These mellows cannot be compared to the feelings one derives from demigod worship. Krishna is one, but the demigods are different. They are material. Love for Krishna cannot be compared to material love from different demigods. Because Mayavadis are on the material platform, they recommend the worship of Shiva or Durga and say that the worship of Kali and Krishna are the same. However, on the spiritual platform, there is no demigod worship. The only worshipable object is Krishna. Therefore, although there is no difference between a devotee in Shantaras or Dasyaras, Vatsalyaras or Madhuryaras, one can still make a comparative study of the intensity of love in these different transcendental positions. For example, it may be said that Dasyaras is better than Shantaras, yet transcendental love of God is there in both of them. Similarly, we can judge that love of Godhead in fraternity is better than love of Godhead in neutrality and servitorship. Similarly, love of Godhead in parental affection is better than love in fraternity. And as stated before, love of God in conjugal ras is superior to that in parental ras. The analysis of different types of love of Godhead has been made by different expert acharyas who know all about devotional service on the transcendental platform. Unfortunately, inexperienced and unauthorized persons in the mundane world, not understanding the transcendental position of pure love, try to find some material fault in the transcendental process. This is simply impotence on the part of spiritually inexperienced people. Such fault finding is symptomatic of unfortunate mundane wranglers. This is a purport that, due to time, we're not going to be able to examine. We could really go through paragraph by paragraph, and my recommendation to the devotee who will be speaking next week, I'm going to make the recommendation that we reread this and we go over it paragraph by paragraph, because within it are Srila Prabhupada is giving us important, not just information, but some instructions on how we progress in our spiritual lives. If anybody does have any questions on what we read, we can address it now. Otherwise, like I said, if we start talking on this, we'll go for another 10-15 minutes at a minimum. Anybody have anything to share before we conclude today? That was a wonderful purport by Srila Prabhupada, and please feel free to go back and reread this one.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
Yeah. One thing struck to me is that in all these rasas, it says there that Krishna is the centered around. That's what I
Yeah.
read.
And that's why, so they're simultaneously completely perfect, and one can be established in perfect devotional service to Krishna in any of them. And at the same time, as Srila Prabhupada says here, by comparative study, one can understand that different relationships are more intimate than others. So it's not that there's one cannot be satisfied. One can be fully satisfied. But at the same time, if you compare them, you can say, well, one has more attributes of intimacy and loving freedom than another does. So naturally being inclined to always wanting the best, right? But sometimes we approach it from a material perspective of best. You follow? It's like you want to go to the best university. You know, we want to be associated with the best friends in society. We like America because it is the best country. Striving for the best. We have to be careful not to apply that same material conception of trying to strive for the best in relationship with Krishna. Srila Prabhupada in the purport explains very clearly that these relationships become revealed to us, we understand them better, and we have an ability to serve in these relationships when the contaminations of our heart become exhausted and leave us. In other words, when we come to the platform of devotional service, where we've overcome anartha nivritti, we've become fixed in steadiness in devotional life. When we develop a taste for liking devotional activities, it's no longer, okay, I have to do it. You actually have a strong longing. This is called ruchi. And from ruchi comes an attachment, a deep attachment to the divine service of the Lord. Nothing can break you from your service. It's not like, oh, we got a family thing going on this weekend, so I can't do my... No, your service takes priority. Oh, but the game's on tonight. No game. Sorry, games don't no longer, football games and things like that, no longer compare to the deep taste for wanting to serve Krishna. Your whole life revolves around your service to Krishna. And at that point, you start to experience emotions of love, this rati, which is part of bhava, loving emotions. So it's at that stage that one can actually begin to start to experience these relationships in their full. So Prabhupada's saying, don't go there prematurely. Yes, by comparative study, we can, analyze them and learn about them to the extent that they are presented to us, by Srila Prabhupada in the books that he's referred to. But trying to prematurely say, yes, I want to follow the gopis, but yet still we have attachment to, prestige in this world. We still have sex desire. We still have desire for money. We still have desire for position. We still have, a taste for, material activities. We are treading down a path of where it was listed there as paths in which we are to avoid. In other words, you can't manufacture something because of your own ambitions in spiritual life. So we have to be cautious, but there is a process that we can traverse. There is, you can achieve perfection in life, and you can get to these platforms. And that's why it's important to have a spiritual master. It begins with that relationship. Serving the spiritual master who's an intimate servant of the Lord. One can achieve perfection in their life. We sing these songs in the morning, the Guru Astakam, and these reveal that the spiritual master is an intimate service of the Lord, engaged in the conjugal service of Shri Radha and Krishna. So by serving the devotees who are in service of Radha and Krishna, that is how we actually progress in our spiritual life, under their expert guidance. I'm going to end here. It's 9 o'clock. Again, so much can be said on this, and we'll revisit it again next week. Hare Krishna. Anything else before we end? I want to say a prayer really quickly. Today, one of our congregation members, Denu Tarpata Prabhu's mother, her name is Uma. I'll read her full name. She's being cremated today. She left her body. Uma Shashi Rastogi. She was at the temple. She came to the temple nearly every week. So we're definitely going to miss her, and we pray to her that Krishna holds her very close to him, and brings her soul to his lotus feet in eternal service. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Hare Krishna.